We got CEO Trayle in the building, Big Boss C4. Welcome to Black TV.
Thank you for having me.
How you feeling?
I'm cool, actually. How you doing?
Good. I know you just hit 100K on Instagram. How's that feel? It's a big deal.
Nah, it's cool. It feel crazy because, like, you know, I was just listening to a song where I had 34,000 followers.
Dang. When was that? How long ago?
Like a couple months ago. It's probably like 5 months ago.
Crazy.
4 months ago. Yeah, like 4 months ago.
You been putting in the work or what?
That's what I feel like. I've been working my ass off, you know? I feel like it.
I feel you. Well, let's start from the beginning. You were born in the Bronx. Just what was a young CEO like coming up in the Bronx?
It was it was fun. It was fun. That's it.
I feel like you got some memories.
Yeah, everybody got memories.
Can we get some?
Childhood memories. I don't really be back in my childhood. Like, you know, like I'll stay in the present.
Got you. I mean, you know, Bronx is where hip hop is.
Yeah, my mother was telling me that the other day. She like, you got a lot of family history and you like a lot of good history of like hip hop that not a lot of people know.
Right. What was she saying?
Just shit like what she used to be having going on back in New York, like back in the old days.
Right.
Rich Porter, people like that. Just little infamous stories like, you know, cocaine cowgirl stories, like she'd be telling me shit like that. Not just be listening to her. That's it.
It's crazy because you were living in New York when 9/11 happened in 2001.
Right.
Your mom was working in the Twin Towers, but luckily didn't go to work that day. Can you just bring us back to that day? Because that's crazy.
She wasn't working in there. She had like, it was like some kind of interview or some kind of something. She had to be there, basically. And she couldn't make it. Because I was fucking up in school, so she came to the school. Well, came to my aunt's house and came and got me. And then the public service announcement came on. Shit fell. That shit was crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, that shit was crazy.
What'd you get suspended for?
Bad shit. I had to throw a book out the window. That's it. Yeah.
You were over it?
I don't even know what was wrong with me, to be honest. I just used to do bad shit. I threw a book out the window.
How did, I mean, you know, 9/11 was crazy, so how did it feel just being in New York at that time?
I mean, I was really young. So, but I do remember you could smell smoke all the way from where I was in the Bronx. I was in Twin Parks, so you could smell smoke, like you could see that shit in the air all the way from where I was. So that's how I knew it was serious, because everybody was crying and shit. I didn't really know what, like, we was watching the people jump out the windows and shit. And that shit was crazy.
Wow.
And I didn't really even understand what was going on, like, you know?
Yeah.
Because I was being bad, so I wasn't even paying attention. Everybody else paying attention, I wasn't paying attention. But I later realized, yeah, that shit was crazy. Just now that when I even think back and just remember to what I see on the TV and what I see when I go outside, that shit's crazy. Like, that shit was crazy.
That's wild. 2007, you moved to Birmingham, Alabama at age 13?
That's crazy, yeah.
What made you move?
Because I was 13 and I ain't had no say so. My OG made me move. She made me move. New beginnings, new starts.
Right.
You know, same shit happened. That's how I got to Atlanta.
Oh, you were being bad out there?
Nah, it's not even that. It's just like shit. She wanted a new start, a new beginning. So moved to Birmingham. Yeah, she felt like Birmingham was a little bit slower. Come to Atlanta because it's the cross between New York and Birmingham. It's like
Right.
So came to Atlanta, and then by the time we came to Atlanta, I was grown enough to make my own decision. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just stay here. I moved around a lot when I was younger. So I'm just trying to stay in one place, like not even in one place, but just like, I ain't everywhere.
I got you. You were raised primarily in foster care, right? What happened? What happened to your parents?
Just life shit, like, and then me being bad too. So
Okay.
just life shit, and then me being bad is just like a domino effect into some worse shit. And then we ended up staying there for like 4 years. But that shit is a part of me. Like I love them people, like the foster family.
Did you?
Yeah, the Duncans. Yeah, I love them. One time I ran away from my mother's house to go to their house after I had got out of foster care. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, that shit was crazy. One time I had ran away from my mom's house and went back like I was still in foster care.
Right.
But yeah,
What made you run away?
I don't even remember. I used to just taking out the trash and shit. I used to just then hate taking out the trash. Something like that. I know it was something like that. It definitely was that. Definitely was that. I didn't want to take the trash out when I was asleep. I got a rude wake up, and then I grabbed the trash bag and I just went outside, and then I just lifted the trash can. I was like, I'm finna get on the train. And I got on the train, and I went to Queens. Yeah.
They took you in?
Yeah, they took me in. They told me I had to go home and everything, but they for sure took me in.
How many foster parents did you have by the end?
I only had like one family, and they was married. Like, so yeah, that was the only family I ever lived with. They was married. They still together now. They've been together. Damn near their whole life. They still together. I know they still together. I ain't even gotta ask. I know this shit.
You said you liked it. Did you have a bad experience at all in foster care?
I mean, yeah, like, nah, I ain't just gonna sit here and say I liked it, but it's like I had to adjust. Like, I hated that shit at first. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, when I first left, I was trying to do everything in my power to get back. I didn't know what to do, but it was like I was young as hell still. But in New York, like, the young kids get a lot of freedom. I was taking the train and the bus to school, so I knew how to get around. So it's like, shit, I was a little bit smarter. But, it played out how it played out. But, yeah, I hated that shit at first. Like, I ain't know them. They ain't know me. I'm like, what the fuck is I'm even doing here? Like, but at the end, it ended up, like, becoming, like, a piece of, like, who I am. Because I learned a whole lot over there. Like, I learned a lot at the house. Like,
what'd you learn?
I learned a lot of, like, I learned how to do a lot of different shit, like, because, like, that was like my first time seeing like a real family. There was like a Cosby kind of like family,
Aww.
like they was on some shit like that. Like they had like, but they was Jamaican and African, so it was like it was the opposite. But I had a foster brother.
Okay.
Like he was older than me, like probably like 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And I had 2 foster sisters. And one was way older than me, and one was younger than me. And then I had my younger sister.
It's a lot of siblings.
Yeah. They They took care of a lot of us. Then they had like started adding on extra kids. By the time they started adding on extra kids, like I hadn't already like went home and shit. But that shit was crazy though. But no, revert back to it. No, fuck that. I ain't like that shit at first. I hated that shit. That shit was the worst experience ever. And then like just to know it was my fault, like just cause I was just being bad. So it's like, damn, like all you had to do is sit down. You wouldn't even be in this situation right now. So
What about music? When did music come into play? Like back then, were there artists that you could like turn to when you were going through it?
music always been like always been a part. Like always been in play. Like I always been good with my words and shit like that. But I started rapping in Birmingham. Like I started in New York. It was the CD player and the 50 Cent mixtapes and shit like that, and Teddy Kiss mixtapes, and you know, just memorizing that shit and just going to school and rapping that shit like that. And then when I got to Birmingham, it was like some people way older than me, they had a studio. So I just went and kind of just watched what they was doing. So by the time I was still 13, 14, and they was like knocking on my door to figure out how to do certain things because I knew how to do it. They didn't.
Really?
I was just watching them, yeah. So ever since I was like 13, I've been recording myself and like shit like that from like all different programs. And then I finally just went to Pro Tools like a couple years ago. But I've been making music my whole life.
Right. You learn just by watching? That's dope.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I like fuck with it and teach myself. Might have like most likely watching though. Like most likely watching.
Do you remember the first song you made?
I really don't. I really remember the first song. I do remember the first song I made. It was off of it was like a twister beat or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Was that before you went to Chicago?
Nah, this is before I went to Chicago. Yeah. I fuck with twister. Like this like a twister beat. Rapped on this shit. And then my auntie walked in on me. And then like she didn't say nothing. And the song was just playing and I was cursing, but she didn't say nothing. And then she just looked at me and then she just nodded her head and then she walked out. And I was like, all right. And then from that point on, I've been like just making music experiment from like, just like, yeah. I always had a studio in my house. Or makeshift studio.
For sure.
Like lamps and shit like that. Like do-rags and shit like that.
Yeah. Twister raps fast, so were you trying to spit?
I wasn't even rapping like him. I was
Okay.
I just like the beats. So
Right.
I just did like my own thing. I think I was like 13. Yeah.
2011, you moved to Atlanta. What happened then? How was Atlanta?
Atlanta was cool at first until like the new shit wore off. Like you just get to really figuring out how it is. Like you just like learning how to maneuver because like you live it. So it really wasn't nothing too crazy. Just figuring out how to move around.